Massive meat. Found it hard to be accountable to a healthy food plan before we started coaching together because of probably lack of knowledge on a lot of things as well, where a serving size looks okay, but actually we have a lot of conversations about those sorts of things and it doesn't seem okay, or I think something's a bit healthy, but it might not be conducive to our training goals together. I think before we started training together, social events were definitely an issue for me in that I'd feel guilty for taking part if there was food that I would maybe enjoy at the time, but actually retrospectively might feel bad about. But actually when we look at food plans together and making better informed decisions with the knowledge that you've shared with me, I feel like I can sustainably enjoy that as and when it comes up. So I don't feel as bad about it now. Definitely, yeah. So the way that you've supported me with thinking about calories across the week rather than just on a particular day, it helps me avoid saying no to things when people ask to go to a wedding or to go out for a meal or something like that. But equally, I'm not saying yes and then binge eating and then it becomes a vicious cycle the next couple of days after that because I think, well, there's no point doing this. Actually, your support to look at my intake and what I'm eating and the training I'm doing or the cardio for the rest of the week means that I can sustainably enjoy my life, but also still get to go to that Friday evening meal or whatever it is, have a good time, and then get back on plan Saturday morning without feeling rubbish. Now it's really clear the care and attention that you put into your work. You have pride in what you do, a lot of technical knowledge as well that comes across in a human way. So that never seemed condescending, and that's translated into our conversations, our check-ins, when we talk about our training plan, food plan. Nothing ever feels condescending, but equally you recognise that the journey that I'm going on slowly with your knowledge, I shouldn't be asking necessarily questions about things that I asked yesterday. Actually, you are taking me on this journey knowing where I'm at as well, and that's been really helpful throughout. But that's what made me speak to you initially. When we first started, I definitely took into consideration the kinds of food that I liked. So I still remember looking at the chicken wraps with the halloumi, and you were asking me what kinds of cheeses I like and what vegetables do I like as well. And then at one point, I think I was really craving burgers for a while. And then we added a healthy option for that. So that scratched that itch. In the summer, there was like healthy ice creams, things like that. So you definitely took into account the foods that I liked. So that helped me sustainably achieve my goals rather than just cutting things out permanently and then having that craving. Previous to being trained by you, I would go to the extreme of cutting things out altogether, killing myself in the gym with lots of cardio, and you do that in short spurts, but actually it doesn't translate into feeling good about yourself long term. It doesn't translate into having a healthy relationship with the gym, your food, your body, whereas actually coaching with you has taught me that I can do all those things in a more sustainable way long term because I'm leaning on you. I think before we started training together, I was probably skeptical about just how much another person can actually influence my body and my mindset. I always felt like that was something that I needed to manage on my own. I needed to be the one to motivate myself and drive myself. Whereas actually what I've learned when we're working together is you can externalize a little bit of that, lean on someone else with the knowledge, the expertise to design your training plan, to do your check-ins, to design your food plan as well. So I think I was more skeptical about having to lean on someone else. I think it does. I think it made me less skeptical by making me feel heard. So you tailored even our conversations, the timing of them, the plan, certain exercises that maybe I felt like weren't resonating with me as much as others. So the fact that you've been so adaptable is probably what took away a lot of that skepticism. Cool. No, I'm joking. So I think my main goal when we first started together was to feel good about myself. I'd gone into a place with my physical health and mental health where actually I didn't feel good about myself, if I'm really honest. I avoided actually even looking at my body. It got that bad. And then I think I just looked at some photos from a holiday or something like that, and I realised that things had got to a stage that wasn't going to be good for me long term, and I didn't feel good about myself. And that combined with you came across in your social media and from our first conversation is what gave me that push really to the goal being I just want to feel good about myself and have a sustainable way of living, and that's what you've helped me achieve. Probably took me a couple of weeks to just get a sense of the process, get a sense of how you like to work. You got a sense of how I like to work as well. So I wouldn't say day one it was a given, but I think through our conversations and the confidence that you instilled in me and vice versa, I knew that we were going to accomplish something great at some point. Obviously the time frames are subject to how hard you want to work at it, how sustainable it's going to be, where you start and where you want to end up as well, and how often you're going to train, how hard you're going to restrict certain foods, things like that, but never felt in doubt really. I think some of the obstacles that we faced through the transformation would be firstly just like life happens. You're going to have difficult things happen with your family, with your friends, with your work, but then on the flip side you're going going to have holidays or social events, things like that, and you were really great in supporting me navigate all of that, because it never felt like you were being punitive towards me. You came at it from an understanding perspective, but still holding me accountable. So even if I'm not going to sit here online and say I followed everything to a T perfectly every minute of every day, because that's impossible for any human being. You'd be a robot to do that. But I did 99% of the time. And the 1% that I didn't, you supported me in making sure that didn't become 2% and 3% and 4%, because you held me accountable, but in a really empathetic way. So I think that was probably the obstacle that we overcame. So I think the coaching and check-ins that we do together differs from anything that I've heard about or experienced myself before, in that it's really clear the investment that you put into that process. So even when we're jumping on a check-in together, we're not starting from scratch. It's clear that you aren't using that time together to look at my lift, to look at what food I've done, to look at the answers to the questions on the form. You actually take the time to prepare and come into that conversation really informed. So then I feel like you're investing in me and the process so much, it helps give me that extra nudge to invest in it as reciprocally as well. I think a lot of things stood out about your coaching style to make a huge difference, because what we accomplished, particularly in the transformation, is not a normal thing. Sometimes you have to look back and actually look at the big picture to recognise that, but when you're in it, it starts to feel like, no, this is just what you have to do. But you were really brilliant at helping me celebrate that and celebrate the small wins as well, without getting complacent, basically. So you kept me humble in the right way, but still celebrating, and I think that was a really key skill that you've been able to introduce into our coaching. And similarly, just making me feel really heard. The times that we've just had to have an off-the-cuff conversation or felt a little bit low and you've picked me up, like they're things that are not that easy for people to do, so credit where credit's due. I think there definitely was a breakthrough moment together. I think there was a point where we must have had 3 or 4 weeks of it feeling like the weight wasn't shifting, my body weight wasn't necessarily changing, the look was improving slightly, but not as much as I felt my effort should have translated into. And you kept me really motivated at that point, where actually it could have gone one of two ways, really. It could have been, actually, this is the pause in it now, this is all I'm going to accomplish, which is good, but not great. And I think at that point you helped just push me through that wall. You didn't do anything drastic with the plan. You didn't go, all right, well, let's just cut 1,000 calories and train 7 times a week instead of whatever it was. You kept it realistic, but still helped me see the bigger picture and actually recognise that sometimes you're going to make small steps to achieve big goals, and it's not necessarily going to be a big win every single day. So our physical and mental health, since I've started training with you, definitely improved a lot, in that I've got a much better relationship with my body. I feel like I can look myself in the mirror and be proud of what's there. Even on weeks where it isn't as perfect as I feel like it could be, I'm still happy with it, but I'm recognising actually there's things that I can do to incrementally improve my physique. From a mental health perspective, staying fit has always been important to me anyway, and having that time training on a plan where I know that there's a clear goal, but it's also scientifically put together by someone with experience such as yourself, makes me feel like actually I'm working towards something, and that constant growth really helps my mental health a lot. My confidence has grown a lot. When I step into the gym now, I don't feel like the same person before we started training together. I think when I step in now, I'm confident in that I know what I want to do, why I'm doing it as well, and I don't feel like an intruder or an imposter in the gym anymore, and that's thanks to your support. From a day-to-day perspective, I definitely feel a lot more comfortable in my skin, and the way it translates is, I enjoy clothes shopping now, not just generally, but actually physically. Whereas I got to a stage where, prior to meeting you, where I would only shop online, I'd want clothes to be size up, I'd want them ideally to have like print on the front and to go with like a little jacket as well to hide my body because I didn't feel comfortable. Whereas now I ideally want to wear white, I want to wear short sleeves, I want it to be a little bit tighter around my arms because I feel like I've got something to celebrate, and that's just one of lots of things that's changed for me, which has been positive. If someone was on the fence about starting coaching with you, my advice to them would be trust that by investing in coaching with Alex, you would be getting a really good 5-star service from somebody who really cares about his clients, doesn't see them as just a number or just another check-in or a tick box exercise. You actually see your clients, like myself, as actual people. You take pride in the work that you do and an interest in my interests as well, which I think is so important, because coaching is quite an intimate thing. Apart from your family and your friends, that's the person that you're going to be speaking to or seeing the most. So having that interpersonal relationship, which you're really strong at, is key. And I would say just give it a go. You don't have a lot to lose, because if you're in a place where you're recognising that anything from Alex's posts or what I'm talking about today resonates with you, then clearly there's something that you want to change, and giving it a go, having an insight into what that experience looks like, you'll only want to carry on with it, and you'll get to a place where you're so much more comfortable in your own skin, feeling like you're getting those compliments, you want to look at yourself in the mirror, you're happy to see photos of yourself on holiday, you're actually looking forward to having your top off at the beach, things like that. They're little dopamine hits that you can't even put your finger on and you don't recognise you're missing until you have them, if that makes sense. So I'd say just do it. The day of the photo shoot together, honestly, like at the end of the transformation, I do still think about it every day. I know I said this to you earlier as well, didn't I, Alex? But it just felt like the biggest achievement, and felt so much gratitude to you in that moment, just giving you a hug and just going, whatever it was that I said, we made it, we did this together, like, God, wow. And you were just saying, oh, you just look sick, man, you look so good. And I just felt like the man of the moment, and all that graft, particularly the last couple of weeks, which are obviously always going to be most difficult, it didn't feel like as much work anymore, because I was like, I'm just on top of the world right now, and it's still one of the best days of my life. I'm married now, so second best day of my life, but genuinely it's up there, because I'll have those memories at the photos forever. And you can look at that one or two ways. You can go, oh gosh, you were in that shape and it's not sustainable, that photo shoot shape, and do you miss it? Well, actually no, because I've still accomplished this really amazing thing, and I know I've got it in my locker to do that again if I wanted to, and I've got the best coach to help me through that as well. So they're the feelings on that day, really.
So walking down the aisle versus walking down the track.
Two big moments, yeah.